Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in with us this evening with another edition, or I should say a brand new edition, of True Conservative Radio. That's right, True Conservative Radio, and I'm your host this evening, Ghost. And I'm glad that you're tuning in with us, whether it's on BTR or on another place across the internet. We appreciate your patronage, and we hope you have a pleasant evening here with us. Now, like I stated in the beginning of this intro, you no longer hear the Republican name correlated with this program. And the reason that is because it's obvious there is a rift in the Republican Party. I've been stating this ever since I started this program, that the Republican Party is being split down the middle. All right? It is being split down the middle. Tom DeLay acknowledged it before the Republican debates in Florida during commentary on MSNBC. There is a rift in the Republican Party, and unfortunately that is why I have dropped the Republican out of my name. I've just completely dropped the Republican out of my name as far as the show's name, because like Tom DeLay was stating prior to the debates in Florida, unfortunately what we're seeing is an epidemic or an infiltration of the Republican Party by a bunch of social liberals. I mean, nowhere has the conservative movement been embraced or acknowledged by the Republican Party. As a matter of fact, we've been isolated, like I've stipulated previous, and I'm glad that a true conservative leader like Tom DeLay pointed this out on a mainstream media, because I've been stating this time and time again. The Republican Party is split. We've got social liberals that have completely infiltrated the Republican Party. The Republican Party, and this is how I know, and this is what basically showed me that my hypothesis is correct. Okay, you've got a true conservative Republican like Duncan Hunter, okay, and this man is a true conservative, being shut out by his own party. They shut him out. They didn't let him in debates. They didn't give him the public forum to elaborate his political platform. The mainstream media shut him out. I mean, even Fox News shut the man out. So this is a deliberate attempt by the social liberals that have taken control of the Republican Party to isolate social conservatives. And you know what's funny to me? What's funny to me is that you've got these social liberals that are dominating the Republican Party right now, allowing the spotlight to be highlighted on Mike Huckabee. Let me tell you something about Mike Huckabee. All right? Mike Huckabee is a tool. He's a tool being utilized by these social conservatives that have hijacked the Republican Party. They're basically utilizing Mike Huckabee's theocratic ignorance. You know, they're utilizing his theocratic ignorance to just highlight the fact that, you see, folks, look at these social conservatives. They want to change the Constitution to the Bible, and that's ridiculous. That is just absolutely sickening for me to hear that the social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party are utilizing Mike Huckabee, and they're giving him the spotlight, and he's making social conservatives look like a bunch of Nimrods, a bunch of zealots, theocratic zealots. That's not what the conservative movement is about. This is why I know, folks, that the Republican Party is basically divided in half. Tom DeLay has stipulated this, and anyone who's a true conservative has stipulated this. I've attempted to facilitate this debate across the lines over here on Blog Talk Radio. You know, I've attempted to patronize other Republican or people that attempt to call themselves conservative on this little network. I attempt to try to facilitate debate with the people and say, hey, how come none of you Republicans are acknowledging this blatant infiltration of social liberalism in our party, and everybody just wants to don't ask, don't tell about it? I guess they're taking their notes from Clinton and his military policy. Don't ask, don't tell. And that's ridiculous. I remember a point in time when social conservatism, the conservative movement, was actually the foundation, the root of the Republican Party. It's what kept us all together, folks. And now we have a deliberate attempt by the social liberals. All right? And it's a blatant attempt. That's why you're not going to see Republican in the name of this program any longer. You're going to see true conservative radio. That's it, because the Republican Party has abandoned social conservatism. And this Huckleberry or Huckleby or whatever his name is, he's making social conservatives look like a bunch of theocratic morons that want to change the Constitution in that of the Bible. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely, utterly sickening to me. Makes you want to throw up, folks. I mean, this is a blatant attempt at putting a bad light on the social conservative movement. Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee's a fraud. He knows it. I know it. And anybody who's a true conservative knows it too. And I thank God that Tom DeLay, a leader in the conservative movement, has acknowledged this separation that's happening here in the Republican Party. It's a shame for me to say it, folks. I mean, I was a staunch Republican, lifelong Republican. I've seen the Republican Party evolve into something completely warped. And I try to facilitate a debate. I try to facilitate a debate about this to other conservatives, and I'm getting hate mail from Republicans. I'm getting hate mail from Republicans because I'm acknowledging the fact that there's a split in the Republican Party. There's a split, folks. You got blatant, unapologetic social liberals that have hijacked the current Republican Party, and then you've got the social conservative movement, which was once the root of the Republican Party, being shut out, being isolated. It's ridiculous. Absolutely, utterly sickening to me. And I'm not going to accept it, folks. I'm going to stay home when it comes to Election Day, and that's sad for me to say. I mean, that really is. I mean, do I want these left-wing, long-haired, liberal, bedwetting hippies winning the presidential nomination, or the presidential election, I should say? No, absolutely not. Do I want to see Hillary Rotten Clinton up there as the president? No, I absolutely do not. Do I want to see Barack Hussein Obama up there? No, I do not want to see. Do I want to see, a borderline Hugo Chavez like John Edwards up there? No, I do not. But I'm not going to go against my conservative principles and vote for a social liberal that's disguising himself in the Republican cloak. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. All these people are social liberals. And this is a blatant attempt to basically, point the new Republican Party in a new direction. No longer is the conservative movement going to be the root of the Republican Party anymore. We were isolated. That, what they did to Duncan Hunter was a shame. It's disgusting. I can't believe they allowed this to happen. They shut out a true conservative like Duncan Hunter, a true conservative Republican with conservative principles. They shut him out. They didn't let him debate. They didn't give him a public forum. They didn't give him the opportunity to spread his message. They had the media deliberately suppress this man, and yet they allowed some long-haired liberal, old, prostate-infected, half-lunatic like Ron Paul use the Republican forum to spew out his left-wing liberal propaganda. They allowed him to use the Republican forum to generate funds, and like I've stated since the beginning of the program, that man, Ron Paul, is going to utilize all that money he generated under the Republican cloak, and he's going to use it against the Republicans as a third-party libertarian candidate. And I'm glad he finally admitted his true motivation in his last debate here, because he's going to do it. And this just goes to show you that the Republican Party has been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals. These people don't care about abortion. They don't care. Look at all these. They don't care about abortion. They don't care about, if people are being openly sexually perverted in public arenas. They don't care about that stuff anymore. They don't care about social conservative values anymore. And like I was stating earlier, Mike Huckabee, you know, and I hate to hear this from these Republican social liberals. They always try to point to Mike Huckabee as, well, you know, you do have a choice. You can vote for Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee's a social conservative. That's ridiculous. All right, Mike Huckabee is a theocratic zealot Nimrod. He's the most ignorant piece of trash I've ever seen run for the presidency. I mean, do you hear this man trying to articulate his particular political platform? It's ridiculous. I mean, saying he wants to change the Constitution into some version of the Bible? That's not what social conservatism is, Huckabee. You are a tool being utilized by these social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party. And let me tell you, it's a shame, folks, because I'm a Republican. I was a Republican all my life. And then to witness what has happened here makes me just completely angry. That's why everybody's always, you know, calling me up and say, you know what, Ghost, you sound a little angry. Sound a little angry. Of course I'm angry. I lost my party. My party has left me, folks. There is a rift happening in the Republican Party. Anyway, I know I went on and on about that last show, but this is a serious subject for Republicans, folks. I mean, this is not good in the political landscape out here. You've got the Democrats on the left over here basically dividing the country into race and gender. It's the most despicable things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you got these left-wing, liberal, borderline authoritarian communists. They're out here basically throwing us back 50 years in race relations. And I think it's irresponsible for the Clintons and the Obama campaign to do this. And on top of which, you got Hillary Clinton over here playing the gender card every time she can, and yet she's pointing the finger at Obama for playing the race card. It's just ridiculous. These people are throwing our country back 50 years in race relations. But then you got the Republican Party embracing social liberalism. They're embracing unapologetic social liberals. All of those people. McCain is probably one of the leading figures of the destruction of the Republican Party. That McCain-Feingold bill is the most ridiculous piece of legislation, the most unconstitutional piece of legislation on the face of the planet, and this man should be ashamed of himself to try to call himself any kind of a conservative Republican or Republican, whatever he's trying to call himself. This man is a social liberal. He's soft on the borders. All right, John McCain, this man is also, he wants more government regulation. He's one of those senators that sticks his nose in private business where he doesn't belong. It's ridiculous. And I want this man as my president, a closet social liberal, a man who wants more people to come in, illegally from the border? No way, John McCain. You're claiming to be some maverick. I'm a maverick. You're nothing, John McCain. You are a social liberal. Tom DeLay said it. I'm saying it. And anybody who's a true conservative will say it too, John McCain. You're a piece of trash, and I'm not voting for you. And I'm not voting for that unapologetic social liberal Mitt Romney either. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, folks, it's Saturday evening. 2 hours of conservative talk all night long here. You can give me a call whether you're a left-wing, long-hair, liberal, bedwetting hippie, or you're one of these blatant, unapologetic social liberals on the right side, or you're a true conservative. Give me a call right now. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about here. It's free format Saturday. I'm just going to be going off about random subject matters that irk me, that kind of get the plasma boiling at the pit of my stomach where it churns up into my esophagus, makes me want to puke up. Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call. True Conservative Radio right here. True Conservative Radio. And that's about it. That's about it. And moderates are welcome, too. Everybody's welcome. Just provide substance. Usually I have people call in They try to throw up the logical fallacies. You know, they try to utilize the methods of agitation, which is a key method invented by the communists. They like to utilize this, like to utilize it a lot. So as long as you're not utilizing the methods of agitation, by all means, give me a call, 646-652-4869. It's free format Saturday night, folks. I couldn't think of a subject matter to talk about this evening because, I mean, I'm just so sick. I mean, you can just imagine a lifelong Republican like myself witnessing this blatant, overwhelming infiltration of social liberals being just running rampant in our party. I mean, I'm a conservative. I mean, I believe that a lot of the social ills that we are seeing prevalent in today's society can be thanked solely on these liberals and social liberals and everybody that doesn't want to acknowledge these problems. They don't want to acknowledge these problems that we're having here. We need to get back to conservative values, in my view, and nobody wants to even acknowledge the conservative movement. And believe me, the only reason the United States is not over 50% in divorce rates is because there is a conservative base. There is a conservative movement in America that still believes in the American family, that still believes in raising their children, that still believes in instilling some sort of conservative values, obliging themselves behind some sort of moral ethos, not submitting to the social liberalism and making the social ills of society the social norm. That's the only reason why you've got 50% divorce rate. Because if you look at all the other westernized countries where liberalism runs rampant, like a roach infestation, you look at Australia, 75% divorce rate. Look at Germany, 70% divorce rate. No morality out there. No kind of moral ethos whatsoever. And that's what the conservative movement tries to emphasize. Moral ethos. You know, we're not like these Mike Huckabee jerk-offs, trying to, switch the Constitution into the Bible. It's ridiculous. But, that's a blatant attempt, folks, by the social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party to put a bad light on the social conservative movement. Believe me, that's all planned, folks. It's all planned. All planned. I mean, and you even got the media buying into this garbage. Oh, the social conservatives, like Mike Huckabee. No, we don't. I don't like Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee's a joke. I mean, some of the things that he has spouted off out of that blowhole of his has just been absolutely obnoxious, theocratic, zealot ignorance. That's what has come out of his hole. So I'm just saying, folks, we need to get back to conservative values. I know I have a lot of conservative people that listen in. I have a lot of them. They write me in emails all the time. They're the only ones that keep me coming back to Blog Talk Radio to continue to do this show. And they listen to me in a variety of different locations. They have put players all over the internet so people can listen in. And a lot of these conservatives are a little intimidated to come in here to the chat room. And by the way, if you're, by the computer, go ahead and get back to us at this chat room here, blogtalkradio.com/ghost. And you can get to us on the chat room. But I get a lot of conservatives saying, oh, we don't want to go to the chat room, Ghost. We don't want those liberal, long-haired, bedwetting hippie agitators, sitting there, trying to flap their fat fingers on the keyboard, insulting us and that sort of thing. Well, it's not just the liberals anymore. I mean, you got Republicans doing it to me now. I mean, I even got Republicans, or so-called Republicans, spewing off a bunch of nonsense, logical fallacies, methods of agitation. I've got Republicans hating me because I'm acknowledging this problem. I was the first one to acknowledge this problem on BTR. You can look back in the archives. I've been stating it, and I'm glad Tom DeLay gave me substance by him acknowledging it on the national media. And on the contrary, we are trying to get a hold of Mr. DeLay to see if he wants an interview on this program, and that'll be yet to be seen. I was on the verge of getting the Duncan Hunter interview, but his media relations specialist decided that, well, this show's a little bit too harsh. Well, you don't want to know why it's a little bit too harsh? Because I'm telling the truth. That's why. I mean, when I'm sitting up here yelling and I'm screaming out of passion. I'm screaming out of fury. Because I am seeing what is happening to America. You've got teenage pregnancy at an all-time high out here. You've got the absolute embracing of women having multiple children from multiple different fathers. It's the social norm nowadays, folks. This is not a minority. This is not a small faction of society. This is now the social norm. It's the social norm for women to go out to the club, get penetrated, get impregnated, and go into the abortion clinic and go having that taken care of, and then go to the club that next week. That's what we're having, folks. This is the social norm, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's ridiculous. Of course, none of the presidential candidates have passion, Stoke. And I'm reading some people's chatting here, and that's why I'm responding, folks, for all you folks who don't know what I'm talking about. The reason none of the presidential candidates have any kind of passion is because they're power-hungry autocrats. That's what they are. I mean, they're power-hungry autocrats. They don't give a damn. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you have all these guys out here, hey, we need to change Washington. I'm an outsider. That's a real big thing to say out here in the presidential campaign. I'm an outsider. I'm an outsider. You're not an outsider. You're just going to keep the status quo. We need somebody who's going to bust some heads, who's going to be a leader. But we don't have a leader, on either side. You've got authoritarian communist dictators on the left of the political persuasion. You've got a bunch of unapologetic social liberal power-hungry autocrats on the right of the persuasion. But unfortunately, you have nothing that's going to, basically instill any type of morality back in America. And you see, folks, when I say morality, a lot of people get, wait a minute, morality. No, I don't want any of that. Because they correlate that with religious zealousy. They kind of correlate that with what Mike Huckabee is spewing out of his hole out there. They confuse the conservative movement with people that want to change the Constitution into the Bible. That's not what the conservative movement wants, folks. Okay, we acknowledge the fact that you have to have a separate sphere of consciousness, all right? I'm a Christian, but I'm not here just spewing off Christian propaganda on you. I'm not quoting verses of the Bible. I am not using religion to give my political persuasion or my social persuasion any type of substance, because that's two different spheres of consciousness. That's why we have a democracy. That's why we have religious freedom. I mean, that's the whole concept of our society. But I am stipulating moral ethos from, I don't know, just an internal support system against the social ills. I guess I'm trying to secularize it to a certain extent so I can make both sides of the persuasion understand that we just can't socially accept what's happening out here. We just can't accept what's happening out here, folks. This is borderline, and I hate to quote the Bible, but that's the only thing people are going to reference this to, Sodom and Gomorrah. Why don't you read a little bit about the Romans, all right, and right before the time they fell, and read about their culture, and read about their social ills and that sort of thing. It's a lot like what we're seeing today. Why don't you read about the Greeks and how they fell, and what happened to them and how their social environment was by the time their empire fell. And you're going to see it's a lot like what we're seeing here in America. All I'm trying to do, folks, as a social conservative, all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to save the American family, because the American family is becoming extinct. And a lot of people, especially these liberal, long-haired, bedwetting hippies out here, they always email me up or they're always text chatting to me, hey, why do you care about the American family so much, Ghost? Why do you even care? Because it was the American family that built this country. It was the American family that gave the person the initiative, the fortitude, the motivation to just go out and work 10, 15 hours a day to support their family. I mean, it was the American family that kept soldiers alive to come back home when they were out at war fighting for their great country. It was the American family that gives people the reason to continue on and putting 100% work ethic, to continue on and to pursue that American dream, to perpetuate a better life for their children. That's what the family's all about, folks, and we're losing it. And if there is no more family, well, then what are these people living for? They're not living for anything. And if they're not living for anything, well, that's not very good, because what's going to happen is they're going to figure, well, you know what, this country isn't anything. You know, our government isn't anything. Our lives aren't anything. And we don't need to go down that path, folks. We need to get back to conservative values, in my view. All right? And I'm not speaking family values or conservative values or moral ethos from any kind of religious perspective. I'm just saying, just look inside yourself. You know right from wrong. I mean, unless you've been completely liberalized, unless the liberal propaganda has penetrated that cranium of yours so much that you're just completely blinded. And if you are, I'm completely sorry for you. I really am. I really am sorry for you. Anyway, folks, I'm sorry I'm going on and on here. It's a free format Saturday night. We're talking about all kinds of subject matters. True conservative radio here. I'm your host, Ghost. You can get back to me right now at 646-652-4869. Give me a call if you want to talk about anything that's on your mind, anything. And we'll debate about it. We'll talk about it. I mean, this is how our democracy works. We're supposed to discuss the issues until at some point we find a middle ground. That's what's so beautiful about our democracy. You know, I had somebody call in yesterday, and I love how these liberals, they always try to say, oh, well, you know what, Ghost, you don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, they don't even know what they're living in, okay? I mean, democracy, by definition, is a country that chooses, as the people, chooses their own leaders. Now, the Constitution, the social contract theory that we abide by that constructs our democracy, that's a republic. That is a republic. So I'm sick and tired of hearing these liberals. They don't even know what they're talking about. You know, they don't know their asses from their elbow. All they're fed is absolute propaganda, and they'll just spew it off at whim. It's absolutely disgusting. But hey, what am I going to do? You know, I mean, it's not like I'm even going to vote this coming presidential election, because what are your choices? You've got absolute authoritarian communist liberals to the left of the persuasion, which is Obama and Hillary and that other guy. And then to the right of the political persuasion, you got a bunch of unapologetic social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party. All these social liberals have hijacked the Republican Party. That's why I have taken the Republican out of the name of this show, because the Republican Party has left the conservative movement. The Republican Party has isolated the conservative movement, has shut out the conservative movement. And anybody who doesn't believe me, why don't you ask yourself why an old prostate-infected windbag, borderline liberal piece of trash like Ron Paul gets the forum, debate after debate after debate, and they shut out true conservative like Duncan Hunter. They just shut him out. You know, I had a show the other evening, and I was talking about Duncan Hunter, and a caller came and said, well, you know what? I don't even know Duncan Hunter. I don't even know Duncan Hunter. The reason you don't know Duncan Hunter is because the social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party, and I'm seeing here, I see this, if y'all see this political vindication fellow who's in our chat room, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Here's a so-called wannabe conservative Republican, you know, likes to label himself as a conservative Republican, and yet he doesn't even want to acknowledge the fact that there's any kind of social ills prevalent in society, because he has already sold himself out. He's one of these Trojan horses that I like to call, these liberals that have infiltrated the Republican Party and have utilized propaganda mechanisms like blogging. You know, I really never realized how influential this blogosphere was. Well, let me tell you, it's pretty influential because it has changed the Republican Party into a damn social liberal cesspool. And I just refuse to acknowledge it. That's why all the true conservatives that are listening to this show, and I thank every one of you who do not vote for anybody. What we're going to have to do as the conservative movement, we got to get back to a grassroots level. We're going to have to elect officials in our local and state governments. We're going to have to elect conservatives to the Senate. We're going to have to elect social conservatives to the Congress. And that's the only way we're going to get back power, folks. Social conservatism. Social conservatism. Anyway, we got a caller here. 508 area code. You're on the air. Hold on here. Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Ghost, Pulse here from Independently Correct Radio. How are you?
How are you doing, sir?
Besides being, like, totally on fire tonight.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm a man who lost his party, so.
Well, I don't have that problem because I'm an independent and I don't belong to any party.
Well, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm on the fence there with you. I'm an independent now as well because let me tell you, these Republicans, they're all a bunch of unapologetic social liberals, and I'm a social conservative, sir. And I think, and I don't know what your feeling is on this. Maybe I can get your opinion as an independent. Now, do you think, you know what social conservatism is, right, sir?
I got a pretty good idea of what it is, yeah.
Now, can you agree with me that the Republican Party has been basically hijacked by a bunch of social liberals who basically just don't even want to acknowledge the social ills of society? And they highlighted the worst case scenario when it comes to a social conservative like Mike Huckabee. You know, and Mike Huckabee is being utilized by these social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party, and they're making the social conservatives look like a bunch of nutcases via this Mike Huckabee character. I mean, just listen to the garbage he spews out about, you know, changing the Constitution into some sort of emulation of the Bible and that sort of thing. I mean, do you agree with me that social liberals have hijacked the Republican Party? I mean, just from an outsider's perspective.
I wouldn't go that far. However, I will say I am disappointed that what is happening on the Republican side. You know, you talk about candidates like Duncan Hunter and Fred Thompson and guys like that. Now, when Fred Thompson announced last year that he was going to run for president, I was expecting him to come out with both barrels blazing, and I expected him to come out to be on fire. And he announced his run for the president, and he just fizzled.
Well, actually, he didn't really even make an attempt either. I mean, he didn't really make an attempt until not this past debate, but the debate before last. That was the only time I ever heard any fire out of him, and then after that, he dropped out of the race. Yeah,
and to be honest with you, I'm disappointed. He dropped out because, like here in Massachusetts, we're going to be voting on Super Tuesday, February 5th. There were just going to be fewer choices for me come election day.
And who is your candidate, if you'd like to share that with us, sir?
I haven't decided yet, to be honest with you.
Do you think that
I will say I'm not going to vote for a Democrat.
Well, I thank you for that. But either way, unfortunately, I mean, if you vote, it's either authoritarian communism to the left, or it's, you know, blatant social liberalism to the right. And there really is no in-between for me, and that's why I'm suggesting anybody who's a social conservative, I mean, there's really no reason to go out and vote. You might as well just stay home and just worry about local elections, worry about, Senate, congressional elections. That's the only way that social conservatives are going to take power. Of course, you're an independent, but I'm just saying, I'm just sick to my stomach. That's why you hear me screaming, you know, the vessel in my head's about to burst. Because I'm a man who lost his party. It's a shame. I've been a Republican all my life.
Yeah. Hey, Ghost, I got a question I want to throw at you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Now, first of all, let me give you a little background about me. First of all, you got to understand, I'm a veteran. I was over in Iraq 4 years ago at this time, so I'm a veteran of the war in Iraq.
Well, thank you for your service, sir.
No, you're welcome. I still serve today in the Army National Guard. Now, I'm of the opinion And again, knowing that little bit of background about me, I'm of the opinion that if we have national security in this country, everything else will fall into place.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
Like not national security in the sense of, like in
the
foreign
sense of-
policy, domestic sense, or?
Yeah, foreign policy, domestic. If we have a secure nation, we're relatively safe from terrorism, things of that nature.
Are you suggesting that we take all our military assets out of the international community and bring them back to the homeland and
No,
just protect the homeland?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I'm of the opinion we have not had an attack on American soil since 9/11 because President Bush chose to take on our gutless, rag-headed enemies on their own turf.
Well, hey, you're not going to get any arguments from me there. I mean, I think I've been saying this all along, and of course these left-winger, long-hair liberal hippies, they're going to say that we can hold hands with the terrorists and sing Kumbaya, but the only way we're going to be able to battle this war of ideology is if we go in there and show these people, because, these poor people have been subjugated with theocracy. I mean, just theocratic Islamic radicalism by a handful of tyrannical dictators so that they can do their bidding. I mean, from the time they're born, they are just force-fed, extremist versions of the Quran, and at the same time, they are brought up to understand that the United States is the great Satan. And the only way we're going to get rid of that mentality is if we show them in the heart of the Middle East, and this is what we're doing right now, I believe, in Iraq and in Afghanistan. We are trying to implement democracy in the heart of the Middle East so that in about 20 or 30 years, when these Islamic countries, these are going to still be Islamic countries, when they are maintaining social order based on a democratic concept, these people that are still being suppressed by tyrannical dictators via Islamic radicalism are going to look to their dictators and say, wait a minute, how come we can't have freedom like they do in Iraq and Afghanistan? How come we can't participate in the free market system? How come we can't have opportunity, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion? And in my view, I think democracy will then spread like wildfire, in my view. Yeah. And I think that this Islamic radical Islam will lose resonance with these people because they're going to realize that life is worth living. And there is no religious significance if you blow yourself up. And that's my view on that. Go ahead, sir.
72 virgins waiting for you either.
Exactly. I mean, this is the mentality we're up against, and this is what most of these liberals just don't seem to understand or want to comprehend. They feel, and you see, we did this during the Clinton administration. Remember that, sir? I mean,
unfortunately, yeah.
The just ignore them and they'll go away approach. Remember that?
Well, if you don't mind, let me rant a little bit about that if I could. Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, is it me, or for some awful reason, it was okay for Bill Clinton to send troops to countries that never attacked us, countries like Bosnia or Somalia, where in Somalia, 18 Army Rangers, were led like lambs to the slaughter to their deaths, for no reason at all.
I remember.
And we have radical, rag-headed terrorists attack us. We go on the offensive, and these same people are bitching and moaning we need to pull the troops out of Iraq. Where were these? Let me back up a little bit. When Bill Clinton first sent troops to Bosnia, he set a pullout date for the troops in Bosnia. We were going to get out of Bosnia on a certain date. Somewhere along the way, Bill Clinton canceled the pullout date.
Well, of course.
Where were these people complaining about Bill Clinton canceling the pullout date?
Well, you see, and this is the point I've been making about the people on the left. People on the left of the political persuasion, believe it or not, these people have submitted to a kind of new version of authoritarian communism. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. The left is just continuously feeds their followers propaganda. That's all they do, just propaganda. And have you noticed that you can't disagree with anyone on the left without any kind of verbal assault, agitation, attack on one's character? Just look at what they did to the man that ran as a vice presidential candidate in 2000. Remember that guy?
Joe Lieberman.
Joe Lieberman. And look at what they did to that poor guy because he disagreed with him on one issue. They threw him under the bus to have him get run over. Yeah. And that's my point, sir, is that they're not going to acknowledge something that basically defies cognitive reasoning. They're going to continue, even if it's true, even if there's a ton of evidence pointing towards the truth, they're not going to believe it because they're programmed not to believe it. They're communists. Anybody on the left of the persuasion is a communist, in my view, because, I mean, if you can't disagree, if you can't have civil discourse on subject matters, by definition, that's authoritarian communism.
Yep. So, two things I'd like to point out. And since I've been become VTR host last May, I've noticed that in general, conservatives tend to be more tolerant of moderates like me than liberals are.
Well, of course.
Okay. And with liberals, I mean, you disagree on just one issue. I mean, that's it. It's over. You know. And I find conservatives much more tolerant. And I also I did, when I started my show last year, I did what I called a pre-debut show back in May. And in that pre-debut show, I specifically stated, you know, that I know as time goes on, I'm probably going to piss people off on both sides of the moral and political spectrum. But I hope that the issues we do disagree on don't overshadow the issues we do agree on.
Sure, absolutely. And at the same time, that's the whole concept of our democracy, you know, and this is why, I mean, believe me, you have your fair share of intolerant conservatives and more than abundant intolerant Republicans. As a matter of fact, I got a few intolerant Republicans that are in my chat room right now that are supposed to be on my team, and yet just because I don't oblige myself to their social liberalism, they're just going to spew off logical fallacies and the same methods of agitation that the people do on the left. So I can understand that, you know, most people, you know, can be a little intolerant, but the true conservatives, I mean, we believe in freedom. I mean, you know, we want civil discourse on subject matters. That's what perpetuates an evolution of thought. You know, we're never going to change each other's minds, but as long as we have the ability and the freedom of speech to provide civil discourse, we'll be able to possibly have each other see each other's perspectives, if not change each other's minds or find a middle ground. I mean, that's what democracy is about, and a lot of people, as you can see right here in the chat room, a lot of people just don't care about that. You know, I mean, this political vindication is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This is a man who's trying to kind of put himself around a conservative Republican label, and yet look at what he's doing. He's sitting here agitating no better than these left-wing, long-haired communists that come in here on a consistent basis and spew off the same logical fallacies that this supposed Trojan horse is doing right here.
Now, Ghost, I got to ask you another question. You talked about voting before, and I guess you say you're not going to vote in the presidential primary.
I'm not voting, period, for anybody. And I'm telling everybody on the conservative, who's a true conservative, and I have triple-digit numbers on a consistent basis. A lot of them are conservative people that like to just sit back and listen. And I told them, look, if you're a conservative that obliges yourself to the social conservative value system, don't vote for any of these people. Nobody. Because there's nobody to vote for. Our voice has been suppressed. I mean, Duncan Hunter, look, I would have kept my mouth shut had they given Duncan Hunter the proper forum, like they're giving this ridiculous liberal hippie Ron Paul the same forum. But they didn't. He was purposely shut out by these liberals that have dominated the Republican Party, and that's why I'm disgusted. That's why you're hearing me yell and scream. I'm surprised I'm not throwing things right now.
Ghost, let me throw this question at you then. I share your unhappiness with the quality of the presidential candidates we have this year. And I don't know if this question has ever been asked, but have you ever considered running for president?
No, absolutely not. I'm not going to run for president because, you know, just look at what the Democrats are doing to each other. You know,
I know.
Just look at what they're doing to each other. They're throwing the country back 50 years in race relations, and you could just imagine what they'll do to a social conservative. I mean, look at what the Republican Party's doing to Mike Huckabee. I mean, they're shining the spotlight on Mike Huckabee as, oh, well, you see, there's a social conservative, and this guy's a theocratic nutball. I mean, this guy wants to change the Constitution into an emulation of the Bible. I mean, that's not what social conservatism is. And you see, this is a deliberate attempt to nullify and basically disqualify the conservative movement as any type of legitimate constituency in the Republican Party. And that's my viewpoint on that. It's a blatant attempt.
Well, I'll tell you, Coach. I share your anger at the fact that obviously the Democrats are eating each other alive, and it looks like it's starting to happen on the Republican side too. But call me naive or just not angry enough. But I mean, I see it as politics as usual. It's going to come out in the wash, and come next November, the most important poll in the country is going to be taking place on Election Day. And in my opinion, that's the only poll that matters.
Well, you know what? That's why I'm just going to stay home and watch it, take care of my family, instead of, making an effort and asserting my right to go out and vote, because, I mean, there's really nobody I'm going to vote for. I'm not one of these Nimrods that are just going to, put a blind eye to myself and just, oblige myself to whatever my party says. I'm not going against my conservative principles. And, that's what some of these dumbass Republicans that are out here, basically spewing off logical fallacies at me in my chat room and in emails and other such methods of communication. This is what these people don't understand. Because I am not basically bowing down to whatever the Republican Party tells me, that I'm somehow not a true Republican. And that's just ridiculous. I'm just stating that the social conservative movement hasn't had legitimate representation in this presidential election, and at the same time, you've got a complete embracing of social liberalism throughout every candidate that's running on the right of the persuasion.
And that was the reason I asked you. Had you ever considered running for president yourself?
Well, you know what? It's not. I wouldn't rule it out here in the next, not this election, obviously, but maybe the next election. I mean, because I've heard some obnoxious characters running for president. I mean, why not? I
just wanted to raise the question, Ghost. That's all. I understand your anger. Obviously, if you're that angry, then do something about it.
Well, I'm trying to do something about it, sir. I mean, I'm just trying to utilize these methods of communication that the social liberals have done, basically to infiltrate the Republican Party. You got the blogospheres, you got venues like Blog Talk Radio. I'm building a website right now. I mean, I got people working on this stuff right now as we speak, and all I want to do is just facilitate debate. I'm not trying to be a leader. I'm not trying to be, somebody who's, the power of the people or anything like that. I just want to facilitate debate. I want people to talk about these subject matters. I mean, that's all I want. But every time I bring it up, I mean, like, as you see here, some so-called conservative Republican political vindication right here, he's chastising me because I'm not obliging myself to his version of social liberal republicanism.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's just utterly sickening to me, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd run for president. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I may run for a local office. I don't know yet. I haven't decided.
You say that. I mean, here in my town here in Massachusetts, I've considered running for local office myself. I may do that at some point. I don't know yet. But in the meantime, I still go to every election and I vote. I live in a town where we have a town election every April. And unfortunately, the voter turnout is usually less than 20%, which is like really embarrassing,
Yeah, it really is, and it's almost that bad on the national scale too.
I know. And give you an example. Last year, in my town, my town we have a board of selectmen. We have five people. The one seat was up for election last year, and there were two gentlemen running for it, and that race was won by, I believe, 18 votes. Okay. Which
wow.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but the voter turnout was only like 17.8%. I think was the voter turnout last year. Okay. Now the town treasurer position, there was two people running for that. That race was won by 22 votes.
Oh, well, hey, man, there weren't no hanging chads involved or anything like that, is there?
Not in my town. No, we use 20th century ballots in my town.
Okay, great. Because let me tell you, 22 votes. 22 votes. I mean, if I was the man that lost, I'd demand a recount.
Well, both losers in each of those races. I mean, by rights, they could have asked for a recount.
Sure.
So they looked at the voter turnout, and and especially the guy who lost in the town treasurer's race. He's currently an assistant treasurer here in town. So I mean, he's pretty sharp as far as town finances go. Now, obviously, this guy knows how much it would cost to hold a recount. But it was his right if he wanted to. But he he looked at the voter turnout, and he said to himself, it just wasn't worth it. and he gracefully conceded.
Well, that's definitely. I mean, it's always good to go out gracefully. I mean, you don't want to look like some bedwetting, red-headed, four-eyed, freckle-faced stepchild, crying over spilt milk. But at the same time, I mean, 22 votes, that's pretty close, or 18 votes. That's pretty close. So.
Obviously, if a lot more people had turned out to vote, obviously a recount would have been worth it.
Absolutely.
Again, just given the poor voter turnout. I've lived in my town now for over 7 years. I love this town. It's a great patriotic and military community, which is probably hard to find in Massachusetts. But anyway, that's the only thing that embarrasses me about this town is the poor voter turnout in town elections every year. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, Tip O'Neill, God bless his soul, and say whatever you want about him, but Tip O'Neill said all politics is local, and the man was right.
It's exactly right, and that's why I'm suggesting to all the conservatives that are out there listening in, and of course I understand you're an independent, but to the conservative folks that really oblige themselves to the conservative value system and the conservative movement, they need to just start working at the grassroots level and trying to elect people to their council, to their state representatives, to the governors, and then to the Senate and to the Congress. That's the only way we're going to win back any type of conservative support, because it's obvious that the Republican Party's been bombarded by a bunch of social liberals, and it's definitely a sad day in America today. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Hey, Ghost, if you don't mind, if I could talk about voting, if I could plug not tomorrow night's show, but next week's show. I'm going to be doing a show. I'm titling it Super Tuesday and Fat Tuesday. It's going to be whatever the first Sunday in February is now. I forgot. February 3rd, I believe.
Go ahead. Do you have a show?
Yeah. Independently Correct Radio is the name of my show. It's Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Tomorrow night, I'm just going to talk about the news of the week. But next Sunday, I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to call on a show Super Tuesday and Fat Tuesday. And I'm going to talk about voting and certainly the importance of voting. And I'm going to talk about 5 non-negotiable issues that you need to know where the candidates stand to see if they share your values overall.
Certainly. Sounds like a great show, my man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it myself.
Well, you know what? I congratulate you on your show. Are you successful? You have a lot of numbers?
Yeah, the numbers have gotten better, yes. Matter of fact, the numbers were like, until actually things really kicked off. I did a show on Veterans Day back in November, and since that Veterans Day show, my numbers have really picked up. I don't know if it had anything to do with BTR and the new system. I think by that time they had all the bugs worked out. But the numbers have been good ever since, and I'm happy. I've got a great listener base. I got a few. They're liberals, obviously. One in particular called his real name is Freddie, but he goes by the name I Got My Reasons.
Well, he usually calls my show all the time too, but I pretty much nullified that man. I'm glad that I've banned him out of my chat room. I don't even take his calls anymore. He's just a ridiculous, feminized piece of garbage that has no substance whatsoever to his debates. And I've made the man look like a mental midget about 1,000,000 times, and yet the man still comes up and wants more. So I just kind of nullified that man. But I understand. Go ahead.
If he's in my chat room, I ban him right away.
I don't blame you. I really don't blame you.
And if it was just me and him, I would take him on and put him in his place. Okay, but he's coming in, disrupting my chat room. Okay.
Hey, he wants more. He wants more listeners on his show, man. That's all he's doing.
Yeah, and he's disrupting my chat room, and I don't want my listeners in the chat room to deal with that, and his I guess the few times I've listened to his show, basically he takes clips from other people's shows and plays them on his show and makes fun of those hosts.
Of course. I mean, he's a piece of garbage, and to be honest with you, between you and me, sir, the man sounds fruitier than a box of Fruit Loops. Okay, I mean seriously. I mean, and with all due respect to the gay contingent that's out there, I mean, that's great. I'm not trying to regulate what you do in your bedroom, but, I mean, if you're going to be openly flamboyantly feminine, be prepared to take a couple of these criticisms, in my view. I mean, if you're going to have feminized vernacular, If you're going to, prominently have feminine features and that sort of thing, I mean, you're going to have to take a little flack for it, in my view, and that's why I'm giving Fred, calling him out for butt-loving fruit bowl, if you will.
So I know he's called on my show a couple of times, and I've seen his phone number pop up, and I just won't take his calls.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Well, hey, man, I thank you for calling in this evening, man. It's been great chatting with you. Tell everybody your show one more time.
Independently Correct Radio. It's on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
All right. Well, I thank you very much for calling, my man. You have yourself a pleasant evening.
And thank you for respecting me as a moderate.
Thank you, sir. All right, we got ourselves a moderate calling in, giving his political persuasion. Very interesting discourse, conversation. And you see, that's all I'm talking about. Let's just have some discourse. Civil discourse. That's all I want. But you know what? You're not going to get it from the left. And even a moderate stipulated that here in this little conversation. You're not going to get it from the left. You know what you're going to get from the left? Logical fallacies, personal attacks, a bunch of four-letter words, ridiculous mumbo-jumbo. That's all you're going to get from the left. And unfortunately, from the right now, because the Republican Party has been bombarded with social liberals, the Republican Party is starting to utilize the same methods of agitation as those on the right. And that's why, folks, I have taken the Republican out of my name when it comes to this show. This show used to be called True Conservative Republican Radio. But I'm going to take the Republican out of there. I'm going to take it out of there. I'm going to take it out of there until the Republican Party finally acknowledges the social conservative movement once again. I mean, heck, we may as well branch off, folks. I mean, we need to branch off. Make the Conservative Party. How about that? How about we get the Conservative Party? Because I am not going to oblige myself to voting for a social liberal, an unapologetic social liberal, that the Republican Party is trying to force down my throat. And all you people that, they don't have conservative value system, well, that's fine. You can go ahead and vote for whoever you want to. McCain, unapologetic social liberal, cares less about what happens at the borders, wants to give amnesty to all the illegal immigrants that are basically running free in this country. You go ahead and vote for him. Or you can vote for Mitt Romney, who basically is an unapologetic social liberal that agrees that abortion should be legal and they should be performed on an hourly to minute basis. I mean, go ahead and vote for that guy. But, folks, Ghost right here is going to stay home on Election Day because I am not voting for any of these people. I'm not gonna vote for any of these people. I mean, the Republican Party has been dominated by a bunch of social liberals, and I know I keep hollering that, but I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I mean, I go on every one of these conservative shows on BTR, with the exception of a few. I want to give much credit to Paul Ibsen or Ibbetson. I don't know. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Paul. That's a very conservative man right there. That's the only man that I've come across on BTR that's a true conservative. So thank you, Paul. Everybody, if you're listening to my show, listen to that man's show. That's it. I mean, bottom line, every other show has submitted to this social liberalism. I mean, bottom line. And I'm not going to do it, folks. And if you're a true conservative, you shouldn't do it either. Instead of worrying about who's going to be the presidential candidate, who cares? All right? Who in the blue hell cares? Because it's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen, folks. All right? The conservative movement has been nullified by the Republican Party. It's been nullified by the Republican Party, folks. It's disgusting. I mean, don't you folks remember? Don't y'all remember when the conservative movement was the root foundation of the Republican Party? And now they're shutting us out. They shut out Duncan Hunter, a true conservative Republican. You know, just swept him under the rug like he was a piece of garbage. And why is that? Well, that's because the social liberals have hijacked the Republican Party. And if you don't believe me, why don't you go ahead and just look at these blogosphere locations on the internet, these supposed Republican blogospheres. I mean, these blogs make me sick, but unfortunately they're effective. And I'm acknowledging their effectiveness, folks, because I have to admit that this blogosphere garbage, this propaganda machine, it's basically converted all the Republicans into a bunch of social liberals. Unapologetic social liberals. And nobody's talking about it. You know, I was the only one talking about this subject matter. Only one on BTR. Only one. And every time I tried to bring it up in a chat room, or every time I tried to call up and bring it up, you know, they were just kind of shoving me away like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a nut job. You know, you're a nut job. I mean, I get this from all these ridiculous wannabe conservative Republicans. Wannabe. And it's a shame, folks. I mean, it really is a shame. I mean, it makes me want to throw up, like I've stated over and over again. I mean, you got the stomach plasma and the acid churning up right now. I mean, my stomach's bubbling. I could throw something out the damn window right now. I could punch a hole in my wall. The fury of me losing my party, the fury of seeing the conservative movement being nullified by my own party gets me angry. It gets me angry, folks, because I have passion for my conservative views. I have passion for what I believe in. A lot of these people that are in here flapping their fat fingers on the keyboard and spreading a bunch of logical fallacies and not doing a damn thing about it, they're just doing it because it's the chic thing to do. They're doing it because, oh, well, you know, I guess this is the intellectual thing to do, so I better do it. They have no passion. These people don't believe in what they say. That's one thing you can say about me, folks. I don't care. I believe what I say. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I'm not going to back down because a bunch of long-haired liberal bedwetting hippies tell me to. I'm not going to do it. I am not going to do it. I am a social conservative till the day I die. And that's all there is to it, folks. That is all there is to it. And all you Republicans out there, all of you Republicans or so-called conservatives out there that embrace this social liberalism, take the conservative out of your name. Take the conservative out of your name because you're not a conservative. You piece of trash. You're not a conservative. I'm sorry, folks. I know I'm screaming out here during this webcast. I'm sure a lot of people are having to, you know, turn down their computers. I'm sorry, folks, but I'm passionate here. I believe in what I say. You hear a lot of these dumb wannabe Republicans out here in the blogosphere or on BTR. They're not passionate. They're just a bunch of liberal agitators. That's what they are. That's what they are, folks. Anyway, whoa! Once again, I'm sitting here on a tirade over here, and here I got a whole board full of calls here. We got a lot of calls coming in, and I'm sure before I take these calls, you're going to have a lot of people trying to agitate. You know, they're going to yell off a bunch of logical fallacies, a bunch of slanderous lies about me, because that's typical. That's typical of not only the left now, but of Republicans nowadays that are disguising themselves as conservatives when there ain't nothing but a bunch of social liberals. Anyway, I'm going to take a call. 608 area code, you're on the air.
Hi, Ghost. This is
How you doing? Oh, how you doing, Right Rose? I'm sorry that you're listening to my show.
No, I'm not going to listen for much longer, but I just want to at least peek in and say hello and just thank you for coming on my show, my substitute show Wednesday night. You did such a good job of supporting me, and I just wanted to come and say hi and thank you. And I think no matter what anybody can say about you, there is truth and passion, and I like that. That's what I hear in you, and that it sounds pure, it sounds genuine, and that's a good thing.
Well, I thank you very much, White Rose, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. You're such a kind person, and it's very, very hard to find that in today's America. And
wow.
you're
I hope not. There's a bunch of us out here yet.
Well, I'd like to think that. But I could show you a stack of emails where people are calling for my head on a platter. People want my assassination. I've had people saying that I should be thrown in jail. I mean,
well, this is still America, isn't it? Hello? Is this America?
When it comes to politics, I'm telling you, they just take no prisoners. It's unfortunate, but that's the realities of things. I thank you for calling, though, White Rose, and you know what? Try to cover your ears, because I know that you're of a different political persuasion, and I don't want you to have that demon thought. Everybody always has a demon thought of me over here when it comes to the conservative ideology that I believe in.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just pick my missions, my passions, and I just stick with that. And I look for the candidates and the people who support that. And I don't get into a lot of what you're doing, but I'm not putting you down either. I just this is still America. You still have the freedom to say. I hope you still have the freedom to say what you want.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, let's not crap on the Bill of Rights here. That's what I'm saying. I have emails of people saying I should be thrown in jail.
Oh, I don't like I said. This is the first time. I was just looking for something to listen to. I'm one of the addicts out here, and some company. But I saw you there, and I just thought I'd pop in.
Well, I thank you very much, White Rose, and and plug your show by all means.
Well, I don't know if I want to.
Well, no, go ahead. By all means, go ahead.
Well, my show is tomorrow afternoon, 3 to 5. Central Standard Time, and the name of my show is called White Rose Talks About the U.S. Department of Peace. And basically what we're trying to do is, I'm just talking, starting conversations about the campaigning that's going around nationwide, a lot of grassroots efforts putting their hearts into trying to make peace a priority in our country. The bill, H.R. 808, is in the House now. If it was passed, if they would pay some attention to it, it would establish a cabinet-level Department of Peace, and it definitely would make peace more of a priority in our country. I'm not a Pollyanna. I know this is going to take some time to get this through, but believe me, I'm one of thousands in this country who are behind this movement, and we're not giving up. We're digging in, and we're just going to keep on doing it until it happens.
Well, that's great.
My show.
and that's the American way, White Rose. I mean, that's all we can do is provide civil discourse, and that's what I appreciate always whenever I talk to you. Regardless of what our political persuasions are, you provide civil discourse, and that's all we can do. We can see each other's perspectives, respect them, and maybe we can find some middle ground through enough debate and civil discourse.
Well, I just want to make sure that I hear, if somebody's upset or if somebody's passionate, what I like to do is read back what they're saying, make sure that because it might be different from how I feel, I want to make sure that I understand you, and then I'll tell you what my opinion is, and we'll go from there. And we may agree to disagree, but I will still respect you as a human being.
Sure, absolutely. So and I thank you for that.
That's my take on it, okay?
Okay.
Well, I'm going to get out of here.
All right. Yeah.
Before the fire starts flying again.
Yeah. Be careful in this chat room. There's a lot of people that take a lot of this stuff real serious.
Well, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I just like I said, my priority is to try and bring some peace, to bring I can't even, I'm not even going to go there. Just come to my show and ask questions and just listen, to what's going on. This Sunday, this is really funny. A lot of our legislators don't take the time to read the bills that they vote on. So what I'm going to do is this bill, H.R. 808, is not that long. So my plan is to read the darn thing and blast Congress to have them download the thing and actually listen to it on their way to work or on the way home or however they waste, our the gas that we pay for in their cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I guess I'm being too cynical. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. and like I stated, I allow anybody to call in and say their persuasions. I mean, this is America. This is what I believe in. I believe in the freedom of speech, the freedom of civil discourse, and as long as people aren't throwing personal attacks or logical fallacies or untrue, things that are untrue, I mean, by all means. I mean, this is America. We shouldn't hate each other because of what we believe in.
One thing I want to make, I just happened to glance at your chat room and somebody said something about somebody assassinating 3,000 of my fellow citizens. I want you to understand that the movement that I'm in is not anti-military at all. We understand the need to protect ourselves. I want to make that very clear. This is not a hippie movement. The hippies have grown up. I mean, we're all in suits now. This is a very serious issue. We want something, to happen in our country. We want to bring more. I mean, there are universities across our country doing peace studies. Why can't we put these people to work? There should be a contingent of intelligent, what I would call peace troops in Iraq, trying to figure out what the hell's going on over there, not just shooting at each other. There should be something else.
Absolutely.
I believe it can be done. You just have to find a way, and there are people in our country of all nationalities, including Arabs, that are in this peace movement, people who know the culture, and they're ready to go. We just need to make it a priority so we can put all these ideas, all these programs into fruition. We've got to put it in gear, make it happen. Yep. There's more to fighting a war than just bullets. You can do it by diplomacy too. You can do it on the ground, face to face too.
Absolutely.
Take 5 minutes and stop shooting.
And tell everybody what time it is tomorrow again.
Again, it's 3 to 5 Central Standard Time. White Rose Talks. And it's under political. So just look at the on air, and I'm sure I'll show up at that time. So.
Okay. I was just gonna say I got a whole gang load of calls here. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to scream their head off at me. So.
Yeah, at least that was a nice one. I thought put it in chat so you knew I wouldn't be one screaming at you.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I appreciate you calling in, White Rose. I mean, as you can see, the demeanor went down a little bit. I'm not screaming. The blood vessel in my head isn't throbbing.
But you know what? That's just. I mean, it's you. I mean, at least you're alive. You have some passion. The opposite of you is apathy, and what good is that going to do our country?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
But anyway, I'm going to get off here so you can deal with your other callers.
All right, White Rose. Thank you very much once again for calling in.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, that was White Rose. Like she said, she was going to have a show tomorrow sometime. Obviously, we're of different sides of the political persuasion. So, but as you can see, folks, I mean, you can have civil discourse without, spreading a bunch of logical fallacies and 4-letter words and personal attacks and all that other nonsense. So, that's great to hear. Whenever I hear somebody who's completely opposite of the political persuasion than I am, it's good to hear people that have decent civil discourse. And what's unfortunate is we're not even able to see that in the Republican Party anymore. I mean, that's what's unfortunate. And anyway, like I said, this is a free format Saturday evening, and I've been talking about the Republican Party being hijacked by a bunch of social liberals and it's been the focal point of this program. But it's something that really, burns me inside. I've been a lifelong Republican. And then to see the Republican Party submit to something that I am completely against socially, that I'm just completely against philosophically, and then the Republican Party wants me to submit to some candidate that they feel is the great candidate, the most electable candidate? No way! Absolutely not! Anyway, got another caller here, 267, you're on the air.
Oh, hey, Ghost. JJ
Yeah.
in Philly.
Who's
Hey,
this?
that's a tough JJ in Philly.
Oh, how you doing there, sir?
All right, great show. That's a tough call to follow up. She was really good. I mean, but who'd have thought that we had people studying, mind you, to figure out how to make peace?
Well, there are people out there. There are people out there trying to perpetuate peace. There's different theoretical aspects of going about it. The way we're going about it, which a lot of people disagree with, is trying to implement democracy in as many parts of the world as possible, because historically democracies don't go to war with each other. So, but that's up for debate. Did you have something to chime in about, sir?
Yeah. The other thing was when you're saying you were party hijacked by the liberal
social liberals.
Yeah. Well, when you say you're a conservative, right? What is the true definition? I mean, what are the main points about being a conservative? In other words, is it religious?
Okay, you know what? I actually had... Go ahead.
What I'm getting at is I think these politicians, doesn't matter these days whether you're Republican or Democrat, they're doing what it takes to get elected.
Obviously.
You understand what I'm saying?
Obviously.
And George Bush is definitely not a conservative with his spending. You know what I mean?
Well, no, there could be a debate that George W. Bush is not a fiscal conservative. No, but I think that he had the conservative social principles, and we see that on who he elected to the Supreme Court. We see that by the initiation of the Sanctity of Marriage Amendment. I didn't expect it to get passed. He knew it wasn't going to get passed. He was just trying to facilitate debate on the subject matter. He's against stem cell research, against abortion. But if you want to hear the true conservative principles, I'll tell you.
Right.
And
I'd like to just two, like the top two. Let's say, you know what I mean? Because I'm really confused with this because people say they're conservative, but they're doing things that aren't conservative. If you get what I'm talking about.
Well, a social conservative is obviously somebody who believes in God, but you see, I don't want to be correlated with Mike Huckabee, which is being utilized as a tool by the social liberals as some nut job to nullify and basically discredit the social conservative movement. But conservatives also believe in the sanctity of marriage, that it's a sacred tradition between a man and a woman, and liberal concepts such as liberal concepts such as divorce and adultery and open sexual perversion, is not a social norm in our perspective. We believe that the family is the foundation of every society. We conservatives pledge an unconditional oath to their families and country. We believe that females should be respected and loved based on their character and loyalty, and not based on their sexuality or social exploitation of their gender. Yeah. And obviously, we're against abortion and that sort of thing.
I believe in all those things too, and I was raised in a Catholic environment, but I'm Democrat. I don't get it. Why would you think I'm a Democrat? There must be a couple of things.
Well, I don't know. You have to tell me, sir. Well, why are you a Democrat?
I just don't agree with certain things that go on. The hypocrisy, let's say, for instance. All these politicians, they preach all the things you just said, but they do something else.
Okay, give me one example, sir.
They're divorced. These guys running for office, Rudy Giuliani, married 3 times. There's a Catholic guy we forbid. We don't believe in divorce.
Hey, you know what? I've acknowledged that. This is my
all
point.
These different things. And Ronald Reagan was a divorced man, and he's the greatest president ever. All these conservative values. That's what I'm talking about. How can you be conservative? Say you're conservative.
No, you see, sir, you haven't listened to my show because I have discredited anybody, even if they are Republican. If they get a divorce, I think that's ridiculous. Now,
right, I did miss your show.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't believe in divorce. As a matter of fact, I've been called all kinds of names because I've suggested maybe we need to throw an outlaw on divorce. You know, maybe we need to make, adultery a jailable offense or something. Now, of course, those are extremist measures. Don't get me wrong. I acknowledge that.
I agree, yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, we need some sort of debate. We need extremist measures like that to get people talking about this subject matter because there is a definite social ill happening in society. We have a prevalence of divorce, multiple divorces. We have a prevalence of single-parent families, and that's become the social norm. This is not a minority anymore.
Right,
and you see, the Democrats, and I understand you're a Democrat, this is why I'm not one, and I will never be one. They acknowledge this as some sort of freedom. As, you're free to go ahead and do that. There's no moral ethos encompassed behind the liberal ideology.
Yeah, I'm from a large family. There's like 13 of us, and most of them are Republicans, and some are, but I have an argument with my brother. He says he's about the abortion issue. I says, I'm not for abortion. I'm a Democrat. I'm not for abortion by any shape, way, means, or form. I would never want abortion. But I don't think anybody should have an abortion. But I don't know how to describe it. But
why are you a Democrat, sir?
You can't. Because I don't agree with the hypocrisy of being a freaking Republican.
Well, neither do I. I mean, you've heard me acknowledge on this program.
I did. I absolutely did hear you say that.
And I don't agree with any of the
parties
anymore.
We need another party. We need
absolutely
a party that starts this. And there's some people that are way out there. They come up with these theories that this thing was self-imploded and this and that. I don't agree with all that jazz, but.
It's all that's been discredited, sir. All these nut jobs that you're talking about, the 9/11 Truth Movement.
Oh, yeah. Then they're even talking about the Oklahoma City was oh boy.
That is just complete malarkey. You know what that is? The 9/11 Truth Movement is basically, some imbecile named Alex Jones, which is probably one of the leaders of this movement, along with a couple of old windbag professors that probably dropped way too much acid in the 70s and 60s.
Oh, man.
These are people that have encompassed the 9/11 Truth Movement, and they're just throwing everything. I have heard so many ridiculous theories on the 9/11 Truth Movement. I mean, everything from aliens came down, and I'm serious. I mean, it's just ridiculous nonsense. So, I mean, I don't put any credence into what the 9/11 Truth Movement is. It's just something for a couple of people, like I stated, Alex Jones and maybe a handful of professors to make money on books and videos and literature and all this other nonsense.
Yeah, they want to make money. All right. Well, I'll let you get your other callers, but it's a really good show.
You know what? Before I get to the other callers, I'd like for you to come and join us, sir. I mean, I'm not saying the Republican Party. I have denounced the Republicans. I mean, the Republicans are just, forget about the Republicans. You're right. They're hypocrites.
I know.
They've been infiltrated. They've been infiltrated at this point by a bunch of social liberals, and that's hypocrisy from the word go. And I mean, all it is. I mean, when anybody that calls themselves a conservative Republican, that means they believe in the conservative values, and their politics are based on the Republican conservative ideology, or the Republican ideology. But now, since the Republicans have basically discredited the conservative movement by basically shutting out the only true conservative candidate like Duncan Hunter and only highlighting the nutcase so-called social conservative and Mike Huckabee, only proves to me that the Republican Party has left me. And that's why I think that, people need to maybe join a so-called conservative party.
Well, remind me, I was a Republican at one time.
Well,
yeah. It was.
Of course. Of course, because, I mean, the conservative movement was the root of the Republican Party. Now it's just been swept under the rug into the closet.
If you look at the history of this partyism, it changes from time to time. You know what I mean? The Republicans, I believe, freed the slaves or whatever, and now it's gone haywire. Now I don't know. They didn't want to help a guy that was a slave. It's just so, everything is haywire. It's just, no matter what you are.
Well,
all right, Ghost.
I thank you for listening in, sir. And you know what? I hope you listen in again, and I hope that maybe you change your mind and become a conservative. And a conservative is no party, sir. It's just a value system. And I've told you the values we believe in. And you seem to sound like a conservative, sir. And I hope that maybe one day you'll be with us in that conservative fight.
We got to find that right candidate that's going to do the right thing for everybody, not just want to do.
Absolutely.
We got to find that guy.
I agree, sir.
Okay. Take care. Have a nice night.
Thank you very much. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
Well, sir, folks, that right there was a Democrat that basically had conservative values. And you see, this is what we need to come to, some sort of a common ground. I mean, conservatism is not some sort of whacked out ideology that the social liberals that hijacked the Republican Party are trying to make it to be. Because it's not. We believe in freedom. The conservative movement, just to be a conservative, just to highlight what the principles of being a conservative are, I've stated some of them already a little while ago, but I'll state them again. Conservatives believe that there is a God, regardless of your religious beliefs. Conservatives believe that marriage is the most sacred of all traditions between a man and a woman, and such liberal concepts such as divorce, adultery, and open sexual perversion cannot and should not be tolerated as a social norm in any society. And conservatives believe that family is the foundation of every society, and that broken families are a social ill that should not be accepted as the social norm. Conservatives believe that men should pledge an unconditional oath to their families and country. Conservatives believe that females should be respected and loved based on their character and loyalty, not based on their sexuality or social exploitation of their gender. Conservatives believe that abortion is the purest form of murder and should not be tolerated, period. Conservatives believe that females and males who have multiple different children from multiple different partners is a social ill and should not be tolerated as the social norm. Conservatives believe that children should be raised in a two-parent home and should be shielded from predators and propaganda that will corrupt their developing minds. The youth is our precious resource for perpetuating conservative values and should be commended and embraced when faithfully following this value system. Conservatives believe that we must abide by the laws of the land unless the laws infringe or suppress on our value system. Conservatives believe in racial equality. Conservatives believe that open homosexuality and lesbianism should not be tolerated as the social norm. And basically, folks, that's the gist of the conservative movement. That's it right there. I don't see what's so harsh about that. It's not harsh. It's just that these social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party just don't want to oblige themselves to those principles anymore because they're all a bunch of divorced, philandering hypocrites. They've already submitted to being anti-moral piece of trash. They've already submitted to this already. Anyway, folks, give me a call, 646-652-4869. It's free format Saturday, folks. We've been talking pure conservative radio here for the past hour and a half. I've loved every minute of it, and I hope you have too, because the conservative movement is still alive, folks. It's still alive. We're still kicking. It doesn't matter what these social liberals that have hijacked the Republican Party do. We're still unified under that conservative movement, and I thank everybody for that. I thank everyone who tunes into my show, who's a social conservative, who's a true conservative. I thank you for your patronage. I thank you for tuning into my show, allowing me into your home, allowing me to discuss certain issues with you. I thank all of you for that. We need to come together, folks. The social conservative movement needs to come together at a grassroots level. We need to instill conservative values on our children. We need to make them aware of the social ills of society and to steer clear from them, steer away from them. We need to shield them from liberal propaganda. We need to shield them from these social ills that may infect them. I mean, that's what we need to do. We need to go at a grassroots level, elect state representatives that have conservative values. We need to elect people at the the congressional and Senate level with true conservative values. And like I've stated previously, Tom DeLay acknowledged this rift in the Republican Party, and I'm glad that he did. It's between conservatives and social liberals. He acknowledged it, and I thank the man for that. Thank the man dearly. Anyway, folks, we got another call here. 570 area code, you're on the air.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
This is Left of Center.
Oh, how you doing, Left of Center?
I'm good. I've been listening to you. Very interesting. I can't say I agree on most, considering I am a Democrat. I am
sure.
But, some things I happen to agree with you. I think that there's a conception that all liberals are godless and we hate family and we want everybody to, have sex in the streets with anybody and everybody they want to. And I think that's just simply not true.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not saying, I hate to broad generalize people like that, but the only reason I do that is because a group is defined by its majority. And in my view, the majority of the people on the left embrace this activity. As a matter of fact, maybe you personally, ma'am, don't embrace it. And I thank you for that. But the party and the liberal ideology embraces the social ills and tries to constitute that as some sort of liberation or freedom.
I agree with you. I think most parties, or the parties judged, I guess by the, the Republican Party is quote unquote liberal, quote unquote conservative, and the Democratic Party is quote unquote left wing or liberal. But I think, just like how you said the Democratic Party is, or the liberals, it sounds to me like you think like the party's being hijacked by a whole bunch of liberal wingnuts. I think
I believe that
I think the same could be said for the Republican Party.
No, that's what I've been stipulating the whole show, is that the Republican Party has been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals.
I disagree.
Okay.
I have to disagree. I think the Republican Party has been hijacked by the crazy conservatives, and I know it's kind of rude to call the conservatives crazy, and I don't think they're all crazy. I really don't.
Okay, in what sense? In what sense? Go ahead.
In my personal opinion, the main reason that I am not a Republican, I am an African American woman, educated,
okay.
and I know a lot of people think that like a lot of black people, and we are mostly Democrats. And it's not that the Democrats are so great. It's not that the Democrats are the party of the black people, because honestly they really don't represent us that well most of the time. But
absolutely, I stated that on a previous show, by the way. If you want to look in the archives,
a lesser of two evils. When I look at TV and I see things like Duke Cunningham, I see a Tom DeLay, I see a David Vitter, I see the guy in the bathroom, a Larry Craig, and okay, people are imperfect. People make mistakes. It's a fact of life. However, I do believe that the Republican Party, by the way of the conservatives, put themselves on this pedestal of perfection. And I almost feel bad for the Republican Party, because it's an image that's really almost impossible to keep up. Because people make mistakes. People mess up. Democrats make mistakes. Republicans are going to make mistakes. And I think the difference is Democrats allow a little bit of humanity. We know these politicians, they're people just like we are. They're power hungry. They're dishonest. You know, they're people just like everybody else. But I think we allow a little bit more wiggle room for mistakes. If you make a mistake, okay, we're not going to throw you under the bus. You know, but
I disagree. I disagree with that. Now, let me explain. Now, if you disagree with the Democrats or the liberal ideology on any issue, they'll throw you under the bus, ma'am. I mean, if you don't believe me, just look at what they did to the vice presidential candidate of 2000, Joe Lieberman. Joe Lieberman,
in my opinion, is not a Democrat.
He ran for the vice presidential candidacy, though, ma'am.
I think he might as well call himself a Republican, in my opinion.
Why? Because he disagrees with the party on one issue. Issue.
Well, John McCain is being called a social liberal because he doesn't fall in lockstep with the Republicans. So, in my opinion, John McCain is the best chance the Republicans have to win in the White House. But he is excoriated by his own party.
Who is that?
Not being John McCain.
John McCain is a social liberal, blatant social liberal. I mean,
that's what I mean. But he's a Republican senator, and he's been a Republican senator longer than I've been alive. I know that for a fact. I mean, he has served his country. I mean, isn't that what the Republicans are all about? The military.
No. Well, first of all, I don't know what the Republicans are all about anymore. That's why I dropped the Republican out of the show name, because the Republicans have gone completely berserk. I mean, the Republicans used to.
Quote unquote, but that is the party that quote unquote represents the conservatives. Now, you may disagree. But
well, not anymore.
Well, I say you may disagree, but you know me, I'm a Democrat, and when I think of conservative, I think of Republican, because the two are basically correlated. They basically go hand in hand.
Well, not anymore, ma'am. I mean, and this is my point: is that these people that are on the right that are running for president are all unapologetic social liberals that believe in abortion, that all have multiple divorce. Well, not all of them, but they have divorces on some of the persuasions. They don't believe in the conservative principles whatsoever. The only person.
But see, that's the thing. I just don't understand. Why do you guys make such a big deal out of people get divorces. It's just the facts of life. It happens, but why?
You see, that's the liberalism, though, ma'am. That's the liberalism that makes you believe that that's acceptable. That's not acceptable.
So it's acceptable to stay unhappy for the rest of your life? Simply
it's not.
To get divorced?
It's not acceptable to, basically use marriage casually. That's not acceptable.
I agree 100%. But I mean, if someone tries to make it work and it's not going to happen, then why not move on and make it better for both of you?
With all due respect, ma'am, I mean, if you didn't know it was, if you knew it wasn't going to work to begin with, why'd you get married?
Okay, well, I seriously doubt any two people getting married go in with the mindset, okay, this isn't going to last but a year, but go ahead. But let's just go ahead and do it anyway.
I believe that they do that subconsciously, ma'am. I mean, this is the mentality we're perpetuating. You see, I mean, I had a gentleman on last week who was a combat veteran from the Iraq War. He had a wife over here. He got wounded. He broke his hip in combat. A horrible injury. Came back home, and because the wife didn't want to put up with this man being injured, because the blatant liberalism has made it okay to just be all for oneself instead of treating the sanctity of marriage as a sacred union between two people. She decided she just didn't really want to take it anymore, so she left him while the man was laying with a broken hip for 2 years. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, man. I mean, people aren't getting divorced. People aren't getting divorced because they're getting their asses beat. I mean, people are getting divorced because they're just completely self-centered, egotistical maniacs, and that is embraced.
To be a self-centered, egotistical maniac. Only liberals are self-centered, egotistical maniacs. I think that's a little unfair, personally. I think
okay.
Selfishness. I think selfishness is a human characteristic. I don't think it's a Republican characteristic, or a conservative characteristic, or liberal characteristic. I think it's a human characteristic. And
let me pose this with you real quick, okay? Now you're here and you're on a conservative show. We're having political discourse. I'm allowing you the forum to say whatever you want to say. Now, if I, after this show, decided to go into a left-wing BTR show and decided to call in and attempt to facilitate any type of civil discourse, that would be impossible. And that's my point when it comes to liberalism. You can't disagree with anything that they believe in. And if you don't, you're just like Joe Lieberman. They'll throw you under the bus.
I have to disagree. I mean, it may be true for some shows, but I think, again, that would be the person. I think if I had a show and a raging conservative such as yourself wanted to come on my show and speak his piece, well, okay, fine. Just like we're talking right now. You know, if you came on my show, if I had one, I would have no problem with you coming to, you know, to hear your side. Like, but I think that's the person. Now, not all conservative shows would be as, you know, facilitating as you are right now. Would tell me, well, I'm just a stupid, you know, hippie liberal, I'm a tree hugger, yada yada yada, blah, blah, and I hate the.
Well, I wouldn't say that to you.
I hate the president. I'm not patriotic. I hate every, you know.
Well, I wouldn't say that to you because you're trying to facilitate your persuasion. I completely disagree, but you're trying to facilitate your persuasion, and that's what America's all about. It's about civil discourse and debate.
I think it's about listening as well. And okay, you may not agree with everything I say, and I know I don't agree with everything you say, but it's okay. But I think just to throw the whole specter of just having a closed mind, and if you're against, you know, I think we both are a little bit guilty on each side to say, if you're not with us, then you're against us. And I think both sides can say that. So it just burns me up. And granted, I am in a conservative show, so, I mean, I basically know what to expect. But I do think it is sometimes a little unfair to blame every ill that the that the United States of America is experiencing right now on liberals.
Well, no, because liberals embrace this activity, though, ma'am. That's my point, is that they try to encompass this, you know, social ill as freedom, and the conservatives are trying to acknowledge that it's a social ill.
All the different things you mentioned.
Yeah, you know, like female. You notice how females having multiple children from multiple different fathers is becoming a majority.
Well,
it's not a minority.
Having multiple children with multiple females, and it's okay to have multiple children with multiple females. There needs to be accountability on both sides.
No, I'm not saying that males are you know, should somehow be treated scot-free, but you see, the liberal mindset has basically strong-armed a liberal-biased justice system, or excuse me, a gender-biased justice system. So if a female happens to get pregnant by an irresponsible man, well, the woman, all she has to do is go and get child support, and if the man doesn't pay child support, he can be thrown in jail. So that's why I put more blame on the female, because they have more power over the situation. They're the ones that, they're the ones that made it okay to get abortions. So, that's why I put a little bit more blame on the female when it comes to the social ill, because this is how I look at it. Man is in every pursuit of woman, okay? And I'm going to get a little graphic here for my conservative listeners. If a woman has to basically allow a man to penetrate her, for sexual intercourse. Now, if she doesn't willingly accept that, that's rape, and the man goes to jail, rightfully so. But if she allows a man to penetrate her, I think that she should deal with the consequences that are at hand. Now, I'm not saying, and you see, people misconstrue this when I say that, oh, well, you're saying that the man should get off scot-free. Absolutely not. You can go down to your attorney general's office or your nearest local office that deals with this child support issue. Go out there, give this man's name and his information, and believe me, if the man doesn't pay any kind of child support, he's going to get thrown in jail. And unfortunately, this gender bias system has only perpetuated this activity of multiple different children from multiple different fathers.
You know what? I think it's disgusting if any woman was to abandon her children, abandon her family. You know, just like you said, when a man penetrates a woman, that comes with responsibility. You know, it's great and it's fun and it feels good, but that comes with a certain modicum of responsibility. However, I think just as shitty as it is, if a woman was to abandon her family, I think it's the same if a man was to abandon his family. And I think a woman should have a recourse. You know, if a guy feels it's okay to just go screw whoever he wants, and you know, I don't have to stick around.
Oh no, I'm not debating on whether or not we should have child support. I'm not debating that. I'm just simply stating though that the social ills of society can be blamed a little bit more on the female, in my view. You know, the feminist movement specifically. Okay, I've talked about this on previous shows.
That's okay. We'll just have to agree to disagree on that, and that's fine. But
well, I'm just saying. I mean, we have to talk about this, you know, just to get the conversation rolling, so we can understand the root of this problem. Now, maybe I'm off my rocker. Maybe I think that, you know, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I believe I do, but maybe I don't. But we have to figure out what the problem is here to solve these social ills that are becoming so prevalent, that are becoming the social norms of our society. And unless we talk about it, we're just going to continue ignoring it and expect it to go away, and it's not going to go away. I mean, the American family is becoming extinct.
No, it's not going to go away. But I don't think, you know, throwing blame, if you know, because once it turns into an attack, then the line of communication is shut down. You know, I can scream about everything is the conservatives' fault, and the conservatives can scream that everything is the liberals' fault. In the end, all we're doing is screaming. And when you lay blame, instead of having an open dialogue, I think this is where our government has failed. You know, everything is so red and everything is so blue that, you know, who's talking? And in the end, who suffers? All these politicians are rich. They have money. They could care less. I mean, I'm sure they say they care, but they don't feel effective. Gas prices where I live is $3.10 a gallon. I mean, They have money.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? But I just think once a dialogue turns into accusations and not
I mean, the reason I say generalized statements is because, I mean, it takes extremist language like that to get the ball rolling with civil discourse. Now, I mean, some people are going to look at me like, I mean, I even have Republicans hate me now because I'm acknowledging the fact that the Republican Party's been hijacked by social liberals. And as you can see in my chat room, it's not just people from the left that don't agree with my persuasion, because I'm a staunch social conservative. I'm even getting attacked by these social liberal Republicans in this chat room, and this is what I'm talking about. I mean, you're trying to correlate conservatism at this point with Republican Party. The conservative movement has nothing to do with today's Republican Party, ma'am.
To me, the conservative movement that I've heard you speak about, to me, reminds me of the Middle Ages. You know, it just takes me back to back then, where, you know, all these problems didn't exist because there was no liberal movement, but they lived in the Middle Ages. You know, life sucked for those people. I don't think being a liberal is a bad thing. I don't think being a progressive is a bad thing, because if everybody thought the same way, we'd all be the same. You know.
Well, no, we're not asking for people to think the same way. We're just asking for some moral ethos in society. And you see, that has been completely flushed down the toilet. And I'm not speaking from any religious standpoint. I'm just speaking, hey, we need to understand that there's a right way of society and there's a wrong way of society. Here we've got people that are making it socially acceptable to make the social ills the social norms.
But who says it's socially acceptable? I mean, okay, that may be your opinion, but to me it's not socially acceptable to kill children. To me, it's not socially acceptable to rape children. To me, it's not socially acceptable to hit somebody
not to me either.
And keep it moving and pretend like it just didn't happen. You know, these things are not acceptable to liberals or conservatives. You know, and I think for you to say, or for anyone to say, not just you, but for anyone to say that liberals are okay with these things, I think it's just unfair and it's completely incorrect. Now,
well, I never said that.
Think we should throw the country back to the Dark Ages? No, I don't. I don't think liberals don't, but I think there has to be a way for liberals and conservatives, for you guys to feel like your values aren't being trampled on, and for us to feel like our free thinking and us wanting to be liberals and wanting to move forward, you know, that shouldn't be impeded on either. You know, I think this world is big enough for the both of us, especially this country. It's big enough for the both of us. But I think if you have us trying to tell you guys how you should live and what you should do, it's not going to work.
You've already done it. Y'all have already done it. Y'all have infiltrated my party. I mean, y'all have already done it.
But then in that case, sir, I have to say then the Republican Party wasn't that strong to begin with. If some liberal conservatives can just walk in and infiltrate your party, it took a lot of planning and strategy. Believe me. I mean, I think that the liberals are brilliant when it comes to propaganda, reverse psychology, deceit. I mean, just look at what the Democrats are doing to each other. I mean, they're throwing the country back in race relations 50 years. Same with gender relations, for that matter. Mm-hmm. Just so that they can get themselves elected. I mean, these people are the masters of propaganda. But you know what? I think if that is the case, and it seems to me that is the way, the Democrats have been trying to play this with race relations, and I think it's shame on the Democrats, and I think it's up to the people of the Democratic Party to let them know that's just not going to fly. But if we just lay down and let these disgusting politicians tell us and dictate to us everything we're going to say, do, and think, then you know what? We had it coming. And I think
no, you can't say that, because you see, this propaganda machine that is the left, I mean, it is so deceitful. I mean, it is just so uncanny that people aren't going to be able to see through it like you and I.
Well, I have to give people a little bit more credit. I understand that there's only a certain amount of people running for president of the Democratic Party, so that means I have a certain amount of people to choose from. However, I, and as an African-American woman, will make my decisions based on the things that are important to me.
Yeah.
Separation of church and state, that's important to me. A woman's right to choose, that's important to me. But I'm not gonna go by what CNN tells me. And if I do that, then I'm a dumbass. And and that's the way I'm going to vote. But luckily for me, I have a brain, and I feel the need to use it, and I use it every day. But again, if that's the way the Republican Party, if they're letting their politicians and they're letting the deceit and the ignorance in the Republican Party, if that's how you guys are losing your party, quote unquote, the conservatives, then again, I mean, I don't know what to tell you as far as that goes. But personally, I'm happy with my party. I'm pleased with the Democratic Party. Now there's race baiting and this,
I mean, I think that should anger you. That should anger you more than I mean, I think that should anger you more than anything. I mean, the Democrats, both sides, more towards the Clintons, it's been obviously induced this racial issue. And let me tell you, Barack Obama, I mean, race wasn't even an issue until these Clintons.
Right, but look what happened. Look what happened in South Carolina. Race was made an issue, and
because of the Clintons.
But she got her ass handed to her. Now, if this is the kind of politics that people are willing to accept, then I believe she would have won.
No, she's going to listen. She is going to win the election. They wanted to lose South Carolina. I mean, this is what I'm telling you. The deceit behind this mechanism of propaganda is just far beyond what it sees on paper. It seems like, oh well, Obama's doing good because he won South Carolina. No, they are using a race divisive type of campaign. They've basically, and this really sickens me. And the media is only infuriating the situation. They are sitting here utilizing racial divisive issues. Because you see, what's going to happen here, and this is what the Clintons anticipated, that obviously Barack was just going to overwhelmingly win South Carolina, because I believe South Carolina, I think 55 or 60% of the electorate is African American. And that's what they expected. They expected a loss, and it's going to leave a bad... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I believe Iowa was like 92, 93% white.
No, I agree, but race wasn't an issue at that time. It's now an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue.
He's proven his electability, so now race is going to be, I believe, personally, in the day and age that we live in, I believe, if race is such a divisive issue, I believe it will not fare well for Hillary Clinton, especially if it's being shown that this is a weapon her and her husband choose to wield. Now, don't get me wrong. They're very, very popular in the African American community, very, very popular. However, there is an alternative, and I believe, and the one thing I will say about this race, that I am pleased. I'm so pleased that this race baiting, and it should infuriate me, but you know what? It doesn't, because it got the black people in South Carolina out the vote.
Well, I'm gonna have to leave it at that because I've only got 5 minutes left on the program. But I'd like for you to come back. Because I guarantee you, Hillary Clinton is going to win hands down after this win for Obama in South Carolina. And we can talk about the racial overtones and why it happened on a future show. But I just want it documented right now that it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, call up and tell me I told you so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Well, we got 5 minutes left in the show, folks. It's been free format Saturday evening, talking about all kinds of issues. First and foremost, I've been basically talking about how the social liberals have hijacked the Republican Party, isolated the conservative movement, and we've been talking about that for most of the program this evening. Anyway, we got 5 minutes left on the program. Tomorrow I'm going to have another show. I don't really know what exactly the show is going to be about. I don't want to be honest with you, I don't even want to talk about the Republicans anymore because these are all a bunch of social liberals, unapologetic social liberals. And then you've got the left of the persuasion, which, you know, and I know that left of center is trying to throw an optimist spin on the fact that these Democrats aren't utilizing race as a divisive issue, but they blatantly are. They are blatantly doing this. And it's unfortunate because that's just what they do. It's just what they do. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. We just got to sit there and take it. They're throwing race relations back 50 years, and the Democrats should be ashamed of themselves. But anyway, folks, I've submitted to this little blogosphere garbage. So if y'all are interested in reading blogs and that sort of thing, you can reach me at Conservative Ghost. That's all one word, no underscores, by the way. conservativeghost.blogspot.com. And that's my blog there. I'm not one of these nimrods that try to be a blogger and trying to be some wannabe news reporter or something. Oh, yeah, you know, today what happened. I'm not doing that. I'm just laying down some views every now and then, and I'd like for all of you that listen to this program to chime in on anything that I write down on the blog, if you will. So get back to that if you can. That's conservativeghost.blogspot.com. And I'm on MySpace too, folks. You know, I'm finally submitting to all this all this digital social arenas and that sort of thing. So you can get back to me on MySpace as well, myspace.com/ghostpolitics. That's all one word, no underscores, nothing of that nature. So, you know, everybody knows what it's all about out here. It's conservative movement. We're here to stay. Nothing's going to take us away. These left-wing, long-haired, bedwetting hippies, they can continue on with their garbage. And the Republican Party, as you can see from the title of this program, it used to be called True Conservative Republican Radio. I took the Republican out of my name because the Republican is now a social liberal party. And I, being a true conservative, I am going to stay home on Election Day and not vote for any of these people. And I advise all of you true conservatives to do the same thing. Do the same thing. Don't give your vote to any of these blatant social liberals. They're pieces of trash. They have isolated the conservative movement. And let me tell you, if you're a true conservative, and you see any of these Trojan horses that I speak of, any of these people that try to disguise themselves with the conservative label, people that try to disguise themselves as true conservatives, and you can read right through them, folks. You can read right through them. You can read right through them and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do here, all right? We're not going to vote for you social liberals. We're not going to do it. You need to point your finger out at these people that are calling themselves conservatives, people that are calling themselves Republicans, and are basically submitting to the fact that, oh, it's okay to have an abortion. Oh, there's no social ills in society. Oh, don't worry about that. That's garbage. Those are the social liberals, and you need to point them out. You need to point them out for what they are, a bunch of ridiculous, long-haired, bedwetting pieces of garbage. Liberals, social liberals, unapologetic social liberals, and all you true conservatives out there, we need to go get together on a grassroots level. Start electing people back into Congress. Start electing conservative people back into the Senate. And that's the only way we're going to come back and take back the majority like we once had. And I guarantee it, folks. I guarantee it'll happen. We can't let these pieces of garbage that are disguising themselves under the conservative label continue to ruin the integrity of the conservative movement. We can't do it. I can't do it. You can't do it. So do something about it. Don't just sit there and allow our party to be hijacked by a bunch of social liberals. Don't just allow these wannabe conservative Trojan horses out here to utilize the conservative name for their own political benefit, for their own liberal ideology. We can't do it, and you can't do it. So stand up, folks. Stand up and demand that these ridiculous characters that are calling themselves conservatives, make sure to make them low. Let them know that we're not going to take it anymore. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for your time. Long live the conservative movement, death to feminism, and I'm out of here.